Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about having a Gemini Sun in a natal chart. Now, first off, what I want to get at is some of you may remember when I first started my YouTube astrology channel, and I was doing a series on the sun signs, but they were a little concise, and some people may have referred to them as snappy. So what I decided to do was make another series of the sun signs and make them a little bit longer and more descriptive. So anyway, well, first thing, as far as Gemini Sun goes, well, the Sun is the basic fundamental character in one's chart, and having a Gemini Sun, the basic fundamental character can be versatile, loquacious, very talkative. Person may be able to talk about manifold subjects, be vivacious, mercurial, changeable, contradictory, not always easy to comprehend, and can be mobile as well. Gemini people often like to go to many different places, and they can be very active in mind and body, and also articulate. Gemini people often have very good understanding and command of the English or whatever languages of vocabulary connected with their country, and but there can be much indecision in Gemini. Some people can be excitable. Now, of course, you got to look for contraindicators and modifying influences in the chart. Like I have a friend of mine that's a Gemini Sun um, and Taurus Ascendant, and he's a lot calmer and more mellow than the typical Gemini Sun, and not nearly as indecisive as the typical Gemini Sun. But anyway, another thing too is the Sun in astrology is connected with our focus and attention. And Gemini Sun people, their focus and attention could naturally be on communications, assimilating information, uh, being able to diversify, branch out, doing many different things. Could be learning also a little about a lot. Because Gemini, remember, is the sign more connected with short, kind of, subjects. You have Sagittarius is more about, learning in a broad, broad subjects, and Gemini is a little more about specific, subjects and learning a little bit, about a lot of things, a little more superficial compared to Sagittarius. Sagittarius people generally want to learn things more fully, or Gemini would rather learn about, more about just different categories and subjects in general, but would learn a little, but learn less about them, about each subject. So the thing is, too, the focus and attention for Gemini can also be connected with dexterity, such as working on auto refrigeration mechanics. Could be trivia as well. Gemini people often can excel in a game like Trivial Pursuit, and also too, Gemini people can often, revitalize words that may be insignificant otherwise. I mean, he's not a Gemini Sun, but the late great, renowned singer John Denver had a Gemini ascendant, and when he sang, he naturally revitalized those words in songs. He gave much more meaning to them than they would have had otherwise. And also, too, the focus for Gemini Sun can be on your educational and scholastic achievements and accomplishments as well. Now, the Sun is also associated with our drive and motivation. So, the drive and motivation for Gemini Sun people can often be to outsmart others, to outmaneuver um, people when they have to, not necessarily to be a malicious way, but if they're in some dangerous situation, it's like outsmarting the enemy basically, um, and also to short journeys as well. Gemini, some people may put might have some drive, no pun intended, of course, toward driving and taking short trips. As Sagittarius is more about long journeys, traveling abroad. Or Gemini is more is actually not more is connected with short journeys, I should say, and it's also wanting to. It's about having the drive and motivation to inject joy in other people's lives, make other people happier. You know, may not be through doing a juggling act or walking on a high wire, but a Gemini people will often try. The Sun in Gemini, as far as the drive and motivation can be to bring more happiness and joy to other people's lives, and they can feel needed as a result of that. People realize that they do actually need Gemini people in their lives more so than they may actually realize or be aware of. The Sun in astrology is also about how we're going to shine, what we shine in, and Gemini Sun people can shine in cerebral and intellectual pursuits and endeavors. And the thing about it is, it could be, playing, some games of, you could say mental agility, such as haiku or lumosity, as some examples. It could be, going back to trivia. Gemini people can often excel in trivia, again, like a game connected with trivia, such as Trivial Pursuit. Another thing too is that Gemini people may excel, in like a game or sport, say a sport that is connected with quick reactions, such as table tennis, racquetball, badminton. I have a friend of mine I was telling you about before, the Gemini Sun Taurus Ascendant person. He plays pickleball. I believe that is a game with quick reaction, but you may want to confer that and check. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is. But anyway, another thing too is that the Sun in astrology is about our creative expression and energy. Now, Gemini Sun people may express that creativity, that creative energy, in something with communication. I mean, it may not be through skywriting a message, but you understand what I'm saying. It could be through creative writing, or through automobiles. Whether it's putting, it's the detailer that puts certain, decals, distinctive decals on, the vehicle, or it's got some features on it, in the car design that are creative. Also, too, it could be through, really, just again, the creativity for Geminis generally can be expressed through something with mobility. A friend of mine, interestingly enough, he had a Gemini Moon and Gemini Ascendant, and even though this isn't the Sun, it was still interesting because it felt like it was almost a game of wit and will. The Gemini thing, being difficult to pin down, and it was a bicycle game. And all I had to do, it sounds like a simple concept. I was supposed to touch, we'd be riding our bicycles, and I was supposed to touch his back tire with my front tire, and best of my recollection, never was able to do it. And that's like, mobility, bicycles, short journeys. So that's a Gemini thing right there, I would say. And another thing too, the Sun in astrology is associated with life. And having, Gemini Sun people, their life may, they may desire to have a life that has exciting situations, that they don't want, monotony or boredom in their lives. These are people that have a life, which has a lot of mental stimulation in being inquisitive, asking questions. A lot of Geminis may feel the only way they're going to know in certain situations is if they ask, because they feel, if they can't get the information, say on the internet or some other route, then they can talk and they can get the answers that they're searching for through conversation and communication. But the thing with Gemini Sun people have to be careful of as far as their life goes, that is that they may dissipate There's through lack of an integrating, purpose. That's what, by doing a lot, doing a lot of things, but not fully, finishing a lot of them, expending a lot of energy, but not completing things. Now, another thing too is that the sun has a connection with the physical body. Yes, the ascendant is what dominates the physical body in the appearance, but the sun can play a role as well. And Gemini Sun people, some may be tall, lean, long arms and legs, have lengthy features, dark hair. The body parts associated with Gemini include the arms, the hands, the nerves, and the lungs. And keep in mind, as I stated before, is that you look for contraindicators, modifying influences in the chart. Again, going back to my friend of mine that's a Gemini Sun, but has the Taurus rising. He's actually shorter than average in height. He's 5'7". Now he's lean. He's like 130 pounds, but still he's much shorter than the typical, Gemini would be. You got to factor in, the ascendant, of course, and other modifying influences such as, planets conjunct the ascendant and/or in the first house. A planet conjoining the sun can factor into the appearance as well. The ascendant itself can modify the sun influence greatly, because the ascendant, is what dominates the appearance and physical body. Now, the sun is also associated with the biological father and children. So people with a Gemini sun may have a those people may have the biological father and and at least one child may actually be Gemini Sun, Moon, or Ascendant people, or embody those characteristics. My father is a Gemini Sun, and I'm a Gemini Moon, so he did have a child that was a Gemini Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, and his Sun in Gemini was actually, very close, I believe, to my Moon in Gemini. My Moon in Gemini is 11 degrees, and his Sun was at or close to 11 degrees Gemini. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard, signing. Stay well.